I went to the war in the Yemen last year. The general said, if you want to see the real war, you'll have to sit in a truck for 6 hours and climb up that hill. And I thought, you know what? I don't think I can be bothered anymore. I think there's definitely a sign of the old age creeping in on me. All those prints in the house, all those negatives, what else can I say about anything, really? There does come a time when you think, I deserve a break now, and I've had a good run, and now it's time to enjoy this. As a child, there was no opportunities. I lived in a pretty miserable slum tenement in North London. The schoolmasters were very violent. I grew up with a bunch of boys who were determined to become criminals. The daily diet was violence and theft. One day, the boys I hung around with, they said, why don't you go and get that camera? Never take any pictures of it, go and get that camera. So I ran up the house and got the camera. And there was a derelict building at the end of my street. So I said, jump up there, and they jumped up there. One of the people in the building said, why don't you take this to the Observer newspaper? And in doing so, the Observer said, did you take these? Will you do more? And I said, yes. And the next morning, after those pictures were published, people found out where I worked, and I was offered every job in England. I thought I could levitate. I developed wings. I felt uplifted and energized. And yeah, I really didn't know what I was doing, to be honest. I didn't search to become a photographer. I think it found me. And boy, did I seize that moment. I've never, ever done a day's work without my sleeves being rolled right up to here. And I've met it head on, like two railway trucks colliding.
Civil war racked Cyprus too. British troops stationed there failed to keep the peace.
3 years on, in 1964, the editor turned around in his swivel chair and said, how would you consider going to cover the civil war in Cyprus? And I couldn't believe what I was hearing. From a little boy in North London, suddenly I was on the world stage. I arrived in Cyprus, and on the way into the town, I thought, oh, something wrong with the car. I heard brrr, brrr. I thought, oh, the silencer's fallen off the car. So I get out of the car and look underneath. Silencer's perfectly happy there, but I'm underneath a huge barrage of crisscrossing gunfire. And then I started seeing people running out of a cinema with children covered in blankets and old ladies running with mattresses from beds, thinking that would protect them. I mean, it was absurd. And I was running around like a mad rabbit. I was just so excited. I thought, calm down, because you're out of control. And I photographed an old lady, and I looked at this old lady, and I thought, if someone doesn't deal with her swiftly, she's gonna die. And I ran over, and I swooped this old lady up under my arms, and I ran away with her. I was like mad. It's just something that makes you say, fuck this, I can't allow to see this old lady killed. I could really run when I was a boy. I was like a greyhound. I was like a gazelle. I could shift. My dad, he couldn't walk 10 yards without gasping. He had chronic asthma. In those days, there were 1 million coal fires burning, and that pollution would go up and be compressed down by the Arctic air above it, creating the London smog. Might as well have put a pad over my father's face. He couldn't breathe. He was terrified to go out. I had to watch this year in and year out until he eventually died. And that gave me a bit of a chip on my shoulder, you know, diving in that stinking place we lived in. I wanted my father's life to mean something. The only way I can achieve that is by honoring his name. I was ready to go out there and start shouting about injustice, poverty, cruelty, and pain most of all. Bradford was one of the most poorest places on God's earth. When I walked into a room in the north of England and saw and smelt the poverty, they were the rooms I grew up in. This is how my life was when I was a boy. How is it going on 25, 30 years later? England hadn't changed. I'm at peace in many ways, but I'm still angry, you know. All those risks and dangers I put myself through, has it been worth it? They're very fragile, these things. I mean, I've got some pretty powerful pictures, but, you know, powerful pictures, they're piled up in my darkroom. In fact, I think they've almost haunted this house with their presence, really. I wasn't interested in money as a young man. I was interested in recognition. So I'd go to the next place and bring back another harvest of tragedy. There was something not totally wholesome about what I was doing. But if you're not there, the world doesn't know. I remember being in Vietnam. This was close quarter street fighting. The way the Marines operate head-on assault, they just got hammered. I saw this man sitting on the wall. There was shells coming in and bullets. And he was just sitting there like that with that look about him. So I said to a sergeant, "What's the matter with this man?" He said, "Oh, I don't know." And I could feel resentment right away. The sergeant didn't want to talk about this guy because he obviously hated the fact this guy had lost it. So I dropped down on my knees and did 5 frames. 5 frames, they're all identical. He did not blink or look in any other direction, but right through me. And then I left the yard, said goodbye to the sergeant, and a shell dropped in that yard. I didn't get hit, the sergeant got hit. I've always boasted in my life that I've never gambled. And of course it's a total lie, because I've gambled with the highest stakes you could gamble in my life. When you're a young man and you're ambitious, you'll walk over broken glass with bare feet to get what you want out of life. But there is a price that I wouldn't pay. The first casualty I saw was a Marine who'd been hit in the face with a bullet. I saw him sitting by a tree with bandage, and I brought my camera up to my eye, and his eyes were saying, "No, no." He was trying to move his head in the slowest way because of the agony. He was pleading with me not to take that picture. And of course I didn't. You don't have the right to take the pictures in the first place if you really think about it. I'm a photographer, I'm a human being. I'm watching this grotesque moment, this absurd, grotesque moment. What good is it going to do if I take a picture? Photography doesn't belong to you. I'm often at war with myself, on trial with myself. You're supposed to be looking out there, but it's all coming in here, not into the camera. Who the bloody hell are you? What are you doing? You're like some invisible ghost that's there with no apparent reason. So you can see the psychology and the pressure. And I didn't go mad. Isn't that amazing? I didn't go mad. I kind of came back to Somerset, got cured. I have turned my attention to enjoying the last bit of my life by doing the landscapes around this house we're sitting in. It's become almost a therapy for me to go out and stand in those fields and try to erase the memory of the appalling tragedies I've seen for the last 65 years. This is not quite right here, really, because, you know, you've got this kind of bunged up sky. It's got no expression, the sky. When that sun was trying to burn through just now, it started becoming interested, but now that's all disappeared and it's just gloomy now. I call them Wagnerian skies because they're full of energy and sound and power. I'm in love, I'm kind of exuding passion, and I'm thirsty for the love of the landscape and the energy. Because if you're eating the best thing you've ever tasted, or you're embracing the most beautiful woman you've ever embraced, that is a recipe for mightiness, you know. I think what's happened is that somebody was trying to spoil my photographic life by driving me to want to go to where it was bad. And I kept doing it. That was what was wrong about me. I kept doing it. Do you know why I kept doing it? Because I thought I did it the best. I thought I gave a clear indication of what you were expected to see from one of my pictures. I was not going to give you a free ride, because it was about something very special, the loss of a human life. I've struggled all my life with this guilt that I survived. And the chip I've had on my shoulder has always been for the victims in my photographs. I've always wanted to take their side and represent them. I've always wanted to be their voice. I've often thought to myself, you haven't succeeded. The world hadn't changed. I'm overcoming my defeat as best I can, really.